change talks. We'll be broadcasting there live for the following 2 weeks. I'm Amy Goodman. The Obama administration's decided not to sign an international convention banning landmines in response to a question about an upcoming review conference on the mine ban treaty. State Department spokesman Ian Kelly said Tuesday the administration recently completed a review and decided not to change the Bush-era policy.
This administration undertook a policy review, and we decided that our landmine policy remains in effect.
Why?
Why?
I think we're one of only 2 nations, and Somalia is about to sign it, right? I mean,
yeah.
So we're going to be the only nation in the whole world who doesn't believe in banning landmines. Why is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but we made our policy review, and we determined that we would not be able to meet our national defense needs nor our security commitments to our friends and allies if we sign this convention.
So what are you planning to do at the conference then?
Well, we're there as an observer. I mean, clearly we have as a global provider of security, we have an interest in the discussions there. But we will be there as an observer, obviously, because we haven't signed the convention, nor do we plan to sign the convention.
This is the first time the Obama administration's publicly disclosed its decision on the treaty which bans the use, stockpiling, production, or transfer of anti-personnel mines. 156 countries have ratified the treaty, but 39 others, including the United States, Russia, and China, have not. A report this month by the International Campaign to Ban Landmines found that mines remain planted in more than 70 countries and killed over 1,200 people and wounded nearly 4,000 last year. For more on the U.S. position on landmines and what to expect from the summit in Colombia next month, I'm joined in Washington, D.C. by Stephen Goose, Director of Human Rights Watch's Arms Division, co-founder of the International Campaign to Ban Landmines, which received the 1997 Nobel Peace Prize. Stephen, we welcome you to Democracy Now! Your reaction to the Obama administration's decision to follow the Bush administration and not signing on to this treaty.
Well, we really see this as just an appalling decision that has been based on a apparently very flawed decision-making process. It's a decision completely lacking in vision, it's lacking in compassion, and frankly, it's lacking in common sense. It shows a lack of political leadership by President Obama on what most others see as a crucial global humanitarian issue.
Explain exactly how this happened. What was your expectation when President Obama took office? And this latest question raised in asking the Obama administration that even Somalia will be signing on, and the response of the Obama administration that this is their commitment to their friends and allies. Presumably, all of them have signed the treaty.
Well, that was a very confused response and exchange that we just heard at the State Department. Clearly, the State Department spokesperson is not at all familiar with the issue. The questioner and in his response were actually based on the Convention on the Rights of the Child, where the U.S. and Somalia are the only 2 who haven't signed that. But indeed, most of the countries of the world have joined the Mine Ban Treaty. Virtually all of the major U.S. allies have done so. Every other NATO country is part of the Mine Ban Treaty. The process that led to this is just an enigma. In essence, this was a stealth review done in complete secrecy. Sort of so much for the Obama administration's emphasis on transparency. They had never even announced that a review was underway of landmine policy. And we at Human Rights Watch and other non-governmental organizations and some key legislators like Senator Patrick Leahy had been encouraging them, urging them, begging them to undertake a formal review. But they never announced that such a process was underway. And then suddenly, in a sort of off-the-cuff response to a question yesterday, they say that a review is already completed and that they've decided to align themselves with the Bush policy of never joining the convention. In fact, the U.S. is now the only country that has said it will never join the convention. even others like Russia and China have said that they will eventually join.
So can you explain what you believe has happened, what you believe is taking place here?
I think we've just had a very hasty and cursory review of U.S. policy. Certainly, they did not consult with key legislators on Capitol Hill. They did not consult with their major military allies. They certainly didn't consult with outside experts, those who've been involved in this issue for decades, literally. And instead, it seems that they have simply decided to allow the Pentagon to dictate terms. The Pentagon said, we reviewed this in the Bush administration. We don't think anything has changed. Unfortunately, the Bush administration did change things. The previous administration, under President Clinton, did not sign the treaty in 1997, but did make a goal of joining in the year 2006. Well, Bush abandoned that. So the U.S. was an early leader on this issue. In fact, President Clinton was the first global leader to call for the eventual elimination of anti-personnel mines. He just wasn't ready to move fast as many of our allies. But we set the target for joining in 2006. That was abandoned by Bush and now embraced by the Obama administration. It's really extremely disturbing that the U.S. can't see the light on this, because it has largely been in compliance with all the key components of the treaty.
Stephen Goose, talk about why this landmine ban is so important. What are the worst countries in the world? How much are landmines a problem today?
There's still a huge problem with landmines, although the progress on this issue over the course of the past 10 years has been rather astounding since the Mine Ban Treaty came into effect. This year, the second 5-year review conference of the Mine Ban Treaty is being held in Cartagena, Colombia, in just a few days' time. And it will look back at what's been accomplished over the course of the past 10 years and plan for the future. Landmines have been banned by so many countries because they are a horrific weapon that has taken too strong a toll on civilian populations. They still kill and injure thousands of civilians each year, and have a heavy socioeconomic toll on many countries, like Afghanistan, like Cambodia, like Colombia, where this major diplomatic conference is being held. But what we've seen as a result of the Mine Ban Treaty is a huge drop in the use of the weapon. In fact, in recent years, the only government that has really made any significant use of the weapon is Myanmar, is Burma, the outcast regime there. We've seen production falling off to only a handful of countries still being willing to produce the weapon. We've seen that trade, global trade, has essentially ended altogether. And most importantly, we have seen huge tracts of land cleared of landmines, with more than a dozen countries declaring themselves mine-free from those clearance efforts. And the number of new victims to the weapon has more than cut in half over the course of the past 10 years. This is a huge success story. Clearly, this is the most successful humanitarian and disarmament treaty of the past decade, if not more. And the U.S. is on the outside looking in. It makes no sense.
Finally, I think it's a very interesting point you raise, that, first of all, you didn't even know that this review was taking place, and that you think it indicates the military is really in charge of policy in the country right now, in the United States, when it comes to the landmines. And we're talking at the same time President Obama will be announcing an escalation of the war in Afghanistan. I'm wondering your thoughts on, well, from landmines to Afghanistan.
I think there is a real sensitivity to not wanting to upset the apple cart on an issue that can be seen, obviously, as a military and security issue, although above all, it's a humanitarian issue. But here are the facts. The U.S. military hasn't used this weapon in 18 years. The last time the U.S. used anti-personnel mines was in the first Gulf War in 1991. It hasn't exported since 1992. It hasn't produced since 1997. It has no plans for further procurement of the weapon. We're basically in compliance with the treaty. The U.S. has not used anti-personnel mines in the wars in Iraq or the war in